All right, so as you can see, the showman of the company takes some time to rest. So I'm gonna take over because he's getting old, you know, so. But okay, so this is the second part of the event. We are gonna start with the rock star of today. There's not one single person that didn't tell me something amazing about Roberto, so I'm very happy you can...
It's too bad my mom is not here.
I can call her. So it's very good that you are still sharing with us your experience, and I leave you the floor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. My name is Roberto Capodieci. It's an honor for me to be speaking at this event. There are so many amazing guests and other speakers. Many thanks to Matteo, the organization, all. Hey, I have very short time, shut up. Allora, so, yeah, thank you for having me here. I know you take a lot of space, so that's a double thank you. And I will be talking and trying to inspire you all about decentralization and blockchain. So I want to start with something we can all relate with. We've all been through the ICO craze. ICO is the initial coin offering, something people were doing to collect funds. There were all these ICO pitches that were going like, we are a customer-centric organization and we deliver the value of IoT, cloud, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence by using design thinking to drive digital transformation for the blockchain-connected enterprise. Exactly. People were like, what? And actually it was one more token. So we have launched this new token called Decibel Coin. How does it work? You yell in your microphone, you collect money. It is, you're ready for the pun, is a sound investment. Well, okay. Let me just wrap up the joke and put in an NFT and sell it on OpenSea. Let's take a look at how we got here with this technology today, so we can better understand where we're gonna go tomorrow. We're living what is called the information age, also known as computer age or digital age. Humans have been through the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, I'm starting from the beginning, and is in the Iron Age where the technology start to being developed. I'm not saying the cavemen were making microchips, but an ongoing evolution of some rudimental technology led to what a couple of thousand years later became the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is divided into subsets. For the developers in the room, we're talking about arrays of arrays. So there is the first Industrial Revolution based on steam power. They used to mechanize production. Second Industrial Revolution based on electric power to achieve mass production. And the third Industrial Revolution based on electronics used to have a smart production. And now we are in what some call the fourth Industrial Revolution, but I prefer calling it the information age, that is based on data, information, used as a service and as a product. The information age is also divided in subsets. Again, for the developer, these are arrays of arrays of arrays. And we had the initial phase where analog content started being stored and shared in digital format. A second phase where this digital content could be sent and enjoyed over networks and eventually through the internet. And the fourth phase, we just began, where those products and services are offered by the community to the community. Is the decentralization phase. Now to the point. Soon, that's my vision, protocols for the centralized system will start replacing those of centralized web services that currently dominate the internet. What it means that rather than connecting to the API of some central provider, our applications will interact directly with a peer-to-peer network. And this is going to be the first step into a decentralized internet. When, rather than connecting to an internet service provider, that effectively is the man in the middle between our computer and the rest of the internet, we're going to connect to a random hotspot of a mesh network that is global. Then even the internet as infrastructure is going to be decentralized. There are several tools used to decentralize, and blockchain is one of the prominent technology that is currently used. We all know that Bitcoin, while it has the merit to have brought us the concept of blockchain, is just one of the many decentralized services that can be run on a peer-to-peer network. The adoption of blockchain is moving beyond cryptocurrency use cases. This is happening because blockchain protocols are open, anyone can implement on top of them, can clone them, can modify them, and most importantly, can make them better. Here is a quote from Fred Hersham. I don't know how to pronounce it. Blockchain are digital organisms. As organisms evolve through changes in their DNA, blockchain protocols evolve through changes in their code. And like biological organisms, the most adaptive blockchains will be the ones that survive and thrive. But it's not that we are talking about the bottom layer blockchain platform, no application built on top of them. Yeah? So that's the basic infrastructure. What happened? So the need to evolve for blockchain platform is big. Most blockchain technology, consensus system, transaction types are thought with of cryptocurrency in mind. This goes down to the core of how a blockchain is secured, making those platforms weak and prone to attacks if adopted on non-cryptocurrency related use cases. Or when managing title of value higher of the blockchain internal economy. In simple terms, those blockchains are secure until the return of investment of the cost of an attack makes the attack valuable. For example, using current consensus system, blockchains that are susceptible to attacks are those that manage title worth much more than the blockchain own market cap. For example, blockchain used for ownership title like warehouse receipts. And those used for to decentralize management of data with no real need for cryptocurrency. For example, documentation flow like medical records and other things. To decentralize and be really decentralized, a blockchain should have no administrator, no central controller or authority, and even no influential, charismatic leadership, because there are blockchains that are decentralized, but when the leader says to do something, everybody follows. In a blockchain, each user owns and controls their own data. The blockchain replaced the need to trust a third party with the cryptographic proof of what happened and when it happened. And the guarantee that it did happen following the protocol rules are coded in the blockchain core software. A transaction that does not respect the rules is not processed. I cannot send the 10 Bitcoins if I only have one. Blockchain must be seen as a decentralized system with tools to cryptographically secure data transformation. Blockchain provides the possibility of having scarcity and thus even the singularity of digital assets, something that in the digital world was impossible just a decade ago. Blockchain makes it possible to reach a consensus about the current state of a piece of data without having to trust any third party to tell us what the current state of the piece of data is. Blockchain has the potential in the near future to fundamentally change how we share information, buy and sell things, and interact with each other and with the institution. We will use blockchain to prove our identity, and we heard this today, and even verify the authenticity of everything from the food we eat to the medicine we take. And most importantly, people will own and control the data that belongs to them. We all know that hidden layer technology, for example, databases, are often the hardest for users to relate with because they're invisible to them, are hidden behind the user interface. This is a problem for blockchain as well, and its adoption has been made even worse due to the often negative association with illicit activity allegedly done with cryptocurrency, because as we know, Bitcoin is for drug dealers and criminals and nothing else. A good narrative is today necessary to accelerate the blockchain adoption and gain the needed trust for the technology to be accepted in multiple industries. Furthermore, blockchain is like the new cloud, big data, or artificial intelligence, AI. Too many people are using it as a buzzword without even knowing what they're talking about. Blockchain should be used to solve real problems, but is unfortunately often forced in projects without a real need for it, just for marketing purposes. Yeah. A real working decentralized system has no centralized ownership or point of control, as it belongs to people running its peer-to-peer network of nodes. Companies that create a real decentralized system hand them over to the public, remaining with no control over it, beside maybe a big chunk of its economy. The node application code is in the hands of the open source community, and the full project is public. And again, I'm talking about the blockchain, not the application developed on top of blockchain. Once the system is public and its code is open source, then the project is really decentralized. The public members who support the funding of the project directly contribute to the development process done by the open source community. Those that run a node of a system peer-to-peer network are contributing to the system itself by running the network, creating collective value, and strengthening the system. They should be monetizing from the user activities on the network. When user pays for services consuming the peer-to-peer network, those payments should be split among all the peer-to-peer node owners, and not just given to the next dude that makes the new block. Node operators need, in fact, to be compensated for processing power and cost, which they have allocated to run their nodes. Current system reward only the accounts that create new blocks, while the rest of the network remains uncompensated. The way to go is reverse. Punish the accounts that do not create a new block when they should. Let's pay attention. Again, I'm not saying that there should not be any way or opportunity for business to monetize on decentralized services. What I've been talking about until now is the lower layer, the blockchain platform itself, which need to be really decentralized. Yeah, decentralized application built on top of an open and public blockchain may have a central point of control, an administrative account, user levels, and specific monetization method. There is a world of service to be implemented, and they are being implemented, starting from hybrid apps that use the blockchain just for some of their processes, to what they call decentralized and autonomous organization, DAOs, or fully autonomous application that run fully working on the blockchain. Don't buy Remarkable, doesn't. No, I changed my mind. Many of these decentralized systems will replace existing online services and applications, but others are new and will never have had the chance to exist if a decentralized platform didn't exist to run them on. Blockchain and more widely decentralization offer great opportunities, and we need to focus on and use those when deploying new projects. Let me tell you the story of what I believe is one of the biggest missed opportunities when it comes to decentralization in recent history. We all know what torrent is, right? No? I'm sure none of you have ever done it, but torrent is a peer-to-peer protocol that people use to download movies and music that is pirate. Well, torrent is decentralized in its nature, as it is a peer-to-peer network, and is the first file-sharing system the authorities all around the world have not been able to shut down. Torrent is as the basis of what the blockchain is today. A blockchain cannot be shut down if it runs in a solid protocol. As I am heading to the end of this inspirational speech, as promised, I leave you with an interesting short story. Title of the story: The Missed Opportunity of the Music and Movie Industry. Consumers always bought music and movies, right? And when the more criminal mind made copies of music cassette and VHS tapes for their family and friends, their behavior was tolerated, as the loss of quality of the audio and video when making a copy made the chain of copies of copies of copies very short. Flashback to the beginning of my speech, as we entered the first phase of the information era and content became digital, people start making copies of CDs and DVDs. At this point, there is no loss of quality when digital copies are made. And for this reason, digital copies were much less tolerated. But it got worse. Huge drama, screaming, people running desperately in the corridor of the music and movie industry offices, management pulling hair off their head. I'm just guessing. As soon as we entered the second phase of the information era, and digital content could now be copied over the internet. The music and movie industry started lobbying the governments to shut down any website, forum, online file storage that was used to trade pirate content. Napster has been the last to stand. The music industry litigation worked against them, and Napster was served with an injunction and shut down their server in July 2001. But there was Torrent, a peer-to-peer network that simply cannot be stopped. The music and movie industry, now together with the software industry, as software piracy over peer-to-peer also was a thing, lobbied the governments to arrest the final user, calling them pirates. Under US law, intellectual property infringement may result in up to 5 years imprisonment and $250,000 fine. This is per item copied. So when you copy one song or a movie, that's counted as one infringement. But when you download the legal copy of Microsoft Windows, is an infringement for every application that is inside. The calculator, the notepad, even the solitaire and minefield. Young kids end up with multiple life sentences put on them just for downloaded pirated software from torrent. Did this move made by the music, movie, and software industry accomplish the goal to stop piracy over peer-to-peer networks? Not. Did they gain the sympathy of the general public? Surely not. They were too focused to fight the windmills. If you don't get the analogy, go read the Don Quixote, a novel by Miguel de Cervantes. Well, they were too focused to fight the windmills that they missed what I believe was the greatest opportunity presented to them. The possibility to sell all the ever created content everywhere in the planet, from big city to the smallest village in remote country, through a network that they didn't have to pay for and didn't have to manage. They just needed to share via torrent, DRM, Digital Right Management locked content, provide free previews, and the means to pay to unlock the DRM. They had the perfect wave to surf, and they missed it. As Bitcoin, and we did the blockchain, came along a few years later, the disrupted industry wasn't the one of the music and film, but the world of financial sector. I'm glad that at this time the reaction has been different, almost. And as we see, there are support for innovation and fintech by the large financial institution. So let's surf this magic wave all together, as there are tons of opportunities and we have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's interesting to understand why there are so many missed opportunities when talking about blockchain, actually. But we will discuss it maybe later during the panel. And now we actually have another round of pitches.
Can I say something?
See, of course.
The books of Capo
Arrived. Oh! Directly from. Oh, nice. So where are they actually now? No, I have it. Okay, then later at the end of the event, we can actually, you can grab your copy. I suppose they are over there.
at the door.
See, exactly. Okay. So I was saying, another round of pitches. We do have the first company, so a round of applause for Marco Crotta from Foodchain.
Okay, so since I have just 5 minutes, I'm going to cheat. No, I have the microphone, thank you. So I'll start before the slides appear on the screen. Oh, the clicker. Do I have to use it? Oh, this is the clicker. Okay. The clicker is not clicking. Yeah, okay, that's us. So for the lucky of you who were with us last night at the dinner at the restaurant, you maybe now guess why we are so proud of our food and why for us this is such an important argument and why we want to secure our food with the blockchain. This is what Foodchain does. Foodchain is a company that started many years ago. It's not just a fresh startup. And the aim of the company at the beginning was find a way to ensure that the quality of the food and the production of the food and the whole supply chain of the food was traced on the blockchain to avoid fraud and any possible misconduct that can happen from the field to the fork. We've been studying this field very closely, and we also got expert in all the ways that cheating can happen or some sort of scam can happen along the way. We were kidding last night about pineapple on pizza. There is one of those situations that actually happened before 2012. This was one of the sparks that started us thinking about how to protect food, ingredients, field, industries, and farmers, and all the people that work around the food industry with the blockchain. So the idea and the concept actually began in 2012, and we worked on it I'll show you after how we spent those 3 years, and we started presenting the solution in 2015 at the expo, and the subject of the expo of 2015 was actually food. And we presented for the first time our solution there. It was quite a success. So the next year, we've actually opened Foodchain SPA, which is basically you can have stock options on our company. And since then, we started working deeper and deeper to try to make our technology on our platform better. So basically what we have is a platform that allows people to write every single step of every possible supply chain on the blockchain and means to check afterwards publicly what those data are, who wrote them, when, with all the security that is brought by a decentralized system. So basically we design the way that those documents can and have to be linked together and provide an interface to make it easier for people to write and read the information from the blockchain. We made quite a lot of experience, meaning that we made a lot of mistakes before we got things right. We started, of course, by trying to do everything on Bitcoin because, I mean, it's blockchain, so you got a lot of Bitcoin and you have to start there, of course. But we soon realized that it was not the best platform. I mean, nothing against Bitcoin, especially on my side, but the thing is, there are quite a lot of ways in which using simple a PDF with a hash on the blockchain is by far not enough to make food traceability or traceability of any kind, because you have a lot of insurance about what you are writing on the blockchain, but you miss some. Blockchain by itself is not enough. You also have to need to know how traceability in the food industry or traceability in any specific industry works, and you have to bring back those rules and those mechanisms inside your project. Okay, you use the blockchain as a tool. I disagree when people say it's just a database. I don't like it that much, but you have that tool, but you have to know how to use that tool in the way that the industry specifically uses. And that's why we had to shift from Bitcoin to Ethereum. We got up our first POC working. The point was it costed too much. Companies didn't want to pay all the fee. They didn't want to be unsure about how they would pay the next month or the next year. So we ended up doing something that just brave companies do. We started our own blockchain, copying from Ethereum, basically, and making it a better blockchain just for industry. So we left out the part of cryptocurrency, this part of the speculation. We wanted to have a smart contract platform that was suitable for applications for industry that just needed to run smart contracts on it in a way that it was very simple, affordable, and predictable on the cost. It turns out that Quadrants is a public blockchain, it's completely decentralized. You can have your own node. You just download the software, you make it run exactly like Bitcoin, and the idea is permissionless. You can have your own node on a Raspberry Pi, and the average cost for a year for running a node is about 10 euros or something like that. If you think about, it could be cutting some corners, you can see quadrants like a sort of polygon, just 5 years before Polygon, and with a focus on the industry. So companies that need to use blockchain for business purposes and leaving out all the part of the speculation. By the way, you can jump on quadrants if you want. It's free, just try it. And if it sounds too good to be true, you're getting it. There is no catch in this. The only catch there is that we need people to be part of the blockchain. So you want to use quadrants, it's perfect. You just run your own node. You pay your own hardware, 10 euros a year, and you're part of the blockchain. You can do whatever you want with it. So how do we manage to make all this happen? Well, we started from the food industry, but later we will see that we moved to other industries as well. But what we do is basically we have a traceability of all the documents and all the information that surround the food industry. We had to study a lot to find out which were the right documents that gave a high enough level of trustability of the application, so that basically the idea is similar to what you said before. If you want to cheat, it's so hard and so expensive that you basically prefer just not to use our solution. So the idea is we incentivize honest producers to use it because we make it very easy for them, and all others who want to cheat, they have a very, very hard time. So it's like there's no convenience in trying to do that. So we trace the provenance, the process, and all the transformation, and this applies to any kind of supply chain. So as you may know, there are very different type of supply chains in the food industry. Some are very short with a lot of ingredients. Other instead are very long, but for example, if you think about wine, you just have the grapes, and that's it, but it extends for a very long period of time. It could be 10 years or even more. So there are very different types of supply chains in the food industry. We are capable with an approach like a very modular approach like legal system. We can trace them all and help you design your supply chain with our solution. And the result is, of course, there is a marketing aspect in this, but there is also a very important way of avoiding a lot of scam, a lot of bad actions that can happen along the chain, especially as you may think. For example, there is a lot of fake Italian products around the world. I have friends in the United States that they think they know this guy called Alfredo, which is the brand that is the leading brand in news. Guys, we don't know who Alfredo is. So the idea is whatever comes out of Alfredo, this is a fake Italian product, right? And people around the world are buying and eating a lot of products thinking they are Italian, but they are not. And the same things, and we will get to this after, goes for the fashion industry. Okay, and we, of course, we can extend the usability of Foodchain also for the fashion industry. And the effect that we have for a final customer, an end customer, is that you have just a QR code on a product, and you can trace it and see all the documents that design the history, because you have to be able to tell the whole story from the beginning, from the field, and then you can see exactly what you are eating and what you are buying. We need to link together all those information to have just a single source of truth about the product. Our solution is already in place, it's already working. We had a lot of successful experiments and happy customers that are using it. So for example, we started with Caffe San Domenico, which is a very high quality coffee brand. We traced his production from the fields in Ethiopia. We started to track the field of Ethiopia where actually the plants were. And from that on, the shipping, the grinding of the coffee, and all the other steps that were taken before it gets to the package. While, for example, in Sicily, there is a district that is producing the vast majority of the oranges, and Coca-Cola is working with those producers as well. They are starting to use it. They started last year. We had a very exciting experience of teaching them about blockchain for about a month, and after that they got rolling out the solution on their own. It was very fun in the beginning. It was very hard in the beginning because, you know, teaching somebody who has never seen mostly a computer, they know how to program what is a blockchain and what is good for you if you use it. It was very hard in the beginning, but after that they flied on their own. And just to have an idea, all those are partners and clients that we have on the food industry, but of course, since we can track any type of supply chain, the same goes for the energy, textile, and identity management also, especially the University of Federico II is starting to use our system to track the progress of the student and to make so that student cannot cheat and say that they had higher grades than they actually had. Textile chain and trame is for the fashion industry, so think of any high-end product of Italian fashion is going to be traced with that, hopefully, in the near future. And Sojin is using the same solution to track where the nuclear waste trunks go and where they are stored, because they need a very high levels of security. Even if the information remains private to them, they link the information in the blockchain in such a way that even themselves, they cannot cheat about where they put those, the nuclear waste. And that's basically what we do. If you have any question, if you want to know more, I had to shrink it down in 5 minutes. Of course, this is almost 10 years of history and success and failures and experience that we have, but this is Foodchain.
Thank you, Marco. I do actually have a first question for you, and then we will see if we have other ones. So let's say if you were one of the startups that we were mentoring, my first remark would have been, okay, I do understand that your technology is applicable to various domains, but don't you think it would be better to focus only on one of those you showed us?
It's exactly what we did in the beginning. So as I said, we started with food. And that
also
was
because
our
the name is
exactly, and that's many tell us why are you proposing me to use, and actually this happened, why you're proposing me to use a food chain solution for the documents of an attorney, or okay, because it works. And the idea is we started with the food, and it was a very complex start because the food industry is very complex. There are a lot of rules to follow. There are a lot of guidelines to follow, and so you have the technology, but you have to make the technology cope with the rest of the framework, right? So we started with the hard case, especially because our clients may be somebody who's wearing a boot and standing in the field, and if you give them an iPad in their hands, they don't know how to use it. So we started with the hard way, with the hard part of it. And after that, going to textile, it was a piece of cake. And moving also to other industries, it was very easy because we already had done all the hard work in the beginning.
Okay. Questionable, but we can discuss it. Do we have any other question for Marco?
Yes, thanks. How do you make sure that, as I understood, you have web node, so how do you make sure that it stays all the way through the chain to the end user?
Okay. We shift the paradigm and we reverse the thing. The idea is that you cannot ensure, it is almost impossible to ensure that a digital data is actually corresponding to that specific object. We have been experimenting, for example, with some tomatoes. There was the possibility to have an instant DNA proof of the DNA of that tomato, of that batch of tomatoes. So you could get the DNA, transform it into digital data, hash the data and put it in the blockchain, and afterwards you could check that it was exactly that brand, that branch, that family of tomatoes. Was very interesting, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. The idea is you have to put your customer in a position in which he is the one who's responsible for everything that he writes on the blockchain. So the idea is I don't have means to prevent you from cheating, but what I can do is say, okay, if you want to cheat, it's okay, but remember that we are cheating on a public blockchain that everybody can verify. You are putting a digital signature on your lie, and you cannot say, I didn't know it, I did it on purpose. So the idea is I am putting responsibility on the user. So the user is claiming this responsibility in front also of the customer and say, this is what I stand for. This is what I claim. So the idea is if you can cheat, but the idea is if you try to do it, it's going to be even easier for police, for IRS, for anyone to go and pick you because they know exactly who was changing. And this is something that our customers like because the idea is if you have a supply chain with multiple people working on it, you can also prevent the responsibility from one user to fall on the head of the other one. So you can know exactly in which part of the supply chain the cheating happened. So the responsible is that person, not the company before, not the company after. And this is something that when they get to understand how the solution works, they like it a lot.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Roberto.
Oh, this is the hard one.
Be prepared.
How do each point along the supply chain knows what batch, what part of the flow they need to add data to? How you connected the first crop that's been collected with, then you get, I don't know, like roasted if it's coffee, and then it goes grinded somewhere else. So how you connect, there is the same things traveling along? DNA aside, which I don't
no, DNA aside, DNA doesn't work. Well, one of the first things that we use the most is mass control. I don't know how to translate it in English, but the idea is that, for example, for the coffee, we had to place the documents and say the coffee comes from this field, so you know how big it is. And anybody working in the coffee industry.
So you had paper document attached to the shipment so that they jump in and keep filling in the same.
It's two aspects. First, we try to pull out data from different sources, not just what the producer says. So if the land registry of that country says that this is the land that I own, I get that document and put it on the blockchain, because the size of the field helps me track out how much coffee I can produce. So if I claim that I produce twice the amount of coffee that is possible to produce from that land, there's something wrong. So the idea is we keep tracking the amounts and make so that it adds up in the right way. For example, one thing that happened, we had to close the deal with a customer because along his, he was producing ham, and along his supply chain there was something magical that was happening in one specific part, and we had to call him, and there's something wrong because there is this place, and I mean, pig enter with 2 legs, and it seems that they get out with 4 because they don't add up. There's something wrong, and I can't hide it. So everybody's going to see that you produce too much if compared to the amount of pigs that you have. So all the data is clear, but here there's something wrong because you multiply.
This is always to check when somebody lies.
Exactly.
My question was, how do you know that the coffee that the second party along the supply chain is entering data about is the same coffee that the first party
This is all responsibility of the user. So the user has to put the data inside. We can help it in some cases, in some industry, with IoT devices that get the data and put the data inside. But the very raw level is manual data entry with the responsibility on the user.
No, I cannot express my question. I will try later.
Okay.
Everybody else to get it.
All right. Anybody else? No?
Good.
Okay. Then,
Thank you very much.
You are out of the, the rope. Okay, then the second startup that we have is Smart Forest with Aivars Pawlak. That's your turn. A round of applause.
It's not our presentation. Ah. Hi, once again. Maybe I'm gonna surprise you now, but we are facing a new economical crisis. Maybe it won't be a surprise, maybe for some of you it will be. And I'm wondering, have you ever thought what to do with it? Have you ever think about that? I guess one of the most understandable answer is to invest. But the problem appears if the investment world looks like that. So dark forest with wolves waiting for your money. For many people, actually, it is like that. It's mainly because of difficulty of some financial instruments. I don't see many people from banks here, but for you, maybe it's not like that. For the average bread eater, it might be very tricky. So the people decide to not invest at all or to invest in something with very understandable value, like real estates, for example. But there's the whole asset class, which is somehow similar to that. Trees. I guess you might never thought that it's possible to invest in trees, in timber. But apparently, if you look at the results, investing in trees, it's more profitable in the long term than real estate. And during the Great Crisis, investing in trees brought like 200% of the profit when everything else was falling down. So I guess it's not the worst result. But if it's such a super asset as I claim, why forest investment takes just 1 promille out of sustainable investments? Well, nowadays, if you'd like to invest in forest, you have 2 options. Either have own plantation, which is obviously not an easy stuff, or you can buy shares in the forest funds. For both, you need at least 10,000 euros. So it's not a game for every player. We decided to resolve that question by creating the marketplace of forest opportunities where people can buy singular trees. So we decreased this level from 10, 15,000 euros to just 30. As a marketplace, we have different parties. So from one side, we have the forest owners and the companies who are planting trees. We have singular customers, and obviously we have the final buyer of the timber. The customers, they can sell it meanwhile. So they don't need to wait until the tree will be harvested. They can just sell it after a year, 2, whatever. Obviously, we are not just selling trees. We also have some blockchain involved in that. We sell something which is called biodigital asset, bio, because we have always one living, growing tree, and digital, as there's NFT certificate to every tree. NFT works like a passport for the tree. And obviously, it's a very convenient tool for the secondary market. So the users can easily, with a couple clicks, exchange the tokens. And there's also collectible value standing behind that. I'm not sure if you're following the market of NFTs. It's a very profitable one. The project has been created for the customers who are just starting to create their own portfolio, but also the ones who are more experienced on that field and would like to diversify their portfolio. We are working with the opinion leaders, obviously, as we are a new product, and this is the way how we can gain the trust. How it looks like. This is the exact plantation. If you want, you can buy a tree even now. Go to smartforest.world. You can buy Pawlownia trees in Romania. Here's the exact information. So the number of the trees, the profit you can get. With this species, you can expect even 8% per year, which is, I guess, pretty good. Very often we've been asked, how you can get money on trees? By timber. Small tree means small money. Big tree means a bigger amount of the timber, so big money. So indeed, they are growing. Here's a plantation which is like 4 years old. They already have 0.3 of a cubic meter of timber. We are not the only one dealing with that, but basically we are the ones who are, first of all, using the NFT, and we are the only marketplace with different species of the trees. So we don't just talk about the timber. We talk about the trees with barks, with juices, with saps, everything what the tree produces. And also CO2 neutralization, which is going to be counted as the carbon credits. So the customer, they can also use their carbon credits for the payments. Business model is pretty easy. We divide the amount, half goes to the planting company, the rest is covering the other expenses. Payment is being done just once. Here is the core team. Our experience, previous one from forestry, from stock exchange, IT, that's all led us to create this project. If we talk about traction, we have 50,000 euros of pre-ordered trees. We have the first users, the customers, and we've been featured in several titles like Handelsblatt, Focus. We are basically currently developing the secondary platform, so the secondary market with the blockchain part. Yeah, and that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivan. So let's assume I buy a tree, okay? So how do I make sure, how do you make sure my tree is insured or something like that? Do you have any specific activities for that?
Yes. If we talk about the first part, so we talk about the auditing of the plantation.
Yeah.
There is the auditing done. First of all, we check the company. So we check the papers, we check the land do they have, we check the experience, because it's pretty important also depending on the type of the trees. We do the personal audit, physical audit of the plantation, and if everything is all right, then we put this on the platform. And if we talk about safetiness of the trees.
Yeah, I mean, someone can cut my tree. I mean.
Yes, exactly. The trees are being insured.
Okay.
So there's a third party involved in it.
All right, thanks. Any questions? Whoa, go.
If I could buy a tree and show it off on Facebook to my friend, that's my tree, probably is going to bring even more clients.
Go on, we are very happy.
So there is the option to share my tree on social media.
Yes.
Okay. Or there is going to be after this. Okay, do we have another mic? So maybe we can take some questions. Okay. To Andrea.
Grazie. I hope I didn't miss something. I would like to know if you can translate a tree in a carbon credit, or if you are willing to.
Yes, basically we are aiming to work on this market as well. Currently, due to regulations, we could think only about the voluntary market, and the actual price would be about the 30 euros per 1 ton. And apparently with one trees, with one Pawlownia, it will be about 40 kilograms per tree per year. We could make such a rough estimation. So we want to monetize that market, but I guess we're going to wait a couple months to see how it's going to develop, in which direction, because this is changing very dynamically.
Thank you. Who's next?
Aivars.
Thanks. The question is regarding, well, I don't know much about growing trees for like business, but you might grow a tree for, let's say, for making it to be burned, or for furniture, or for building houses, so on and so forth. So do you focus on any specific type of trees? And also, if you do, then how do you, like, is the, let's say, value of NFT attached to how the tree grows? Like, your tree might grow like this, and then the value might fall. Do you count that as well, or how do you do? Thanks.
Okay, I'm starting from the first question, because I would divide that into the two different topics. If we talk about the trees themselves, we are a marketplace with different tree species. We started from Pawlownia, because this is the model which has been checked and it's working and so on. But we also aim to have different tree species. So with different tree species, you will have different models. So some of them, they are for timber, like this one. Some of them, they are for different stuffs. With this timber, we mainly talk about, I would say, everything connected with the water. So the boats, surfboards, etc., because it has very, it's very light and has, like, it's not rotting in compared to the other types of the timber. If we talk about selling channels, we basically cooperate with the partners. So the planting company, they have their own selling channels, as they are mainly working on the local markets. So we are going to cooperate them with selling the timber, but it's also their own responsibility as well. Second part of the question was about the
NFT's value,
NFT
depending on how
Yes.
the tree grows.
Yeah, actually, this is a funny story, because in let's say calculating the final value, we are doing the pool. So the amount of all of the timber sold from the plantation will be divided by the token holders. So if your exactly tree won't grow as it should have, nothing will happen. So you won't get less money. With the collectible value, it's more important also in the secondary market. So imagine that you want to sell your NFT after 2 years. There are chances that the price you get at that moment might be very high because no one else is going to sell it. So there will be some crypto numismat who would like to get exactly your tree.
So there isn't like gambling opportunity on betting on that specific tree.
Yes, there is some.
Thanks.
congratulations for the idea. I love it. I just had a question about what happens next. I mean, I invest in a tree, and then someday the tree gets cut down, I sell the timber, I make money. So what remains in that land? Do you plant other trees over there? Do you keep the environment and the along?
Mm-hmm. It depends on the plantation. In this case, with Pawlovnia, after they are cutted, they regrow from the same roots. So you have the continuous cycle up to 5 times. So we talk about a period of 40 years at least.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Are we good?
I can ask one more about the task structure. You had these 3, like marketing, sales, and something like another, but aren't you investing in R&D further?
So he was asking about the cost structure. So
Yes.
if they are investing in R&D and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, basically, I'm not sure if you can see this. R&Ds are also involved. They might be just called differently. Here, it goes like the other. So by R&D, I mean IoTs on the plantation, and this is needed to control the humidity on the plantation, for example, because this is something which is more killing for trees than insects, for example. It depends, obviously, on the type of the trees, but the plantation can tweet, yeah. Can give the alarm, so the investors, we would know, and the planting company would know that, for example, there is the time to water the plantation, or on the other hand, it's too humid, so we have to think how to dry it and so on. Also, the blockchain part goes to the R&D as well.
What happens in case of any natural calamity?
Guru.
Use the mic because of the streaming people don't hear you.
So my question was, what happens in case of drought, floods, or any natural calamity? Is there some kind of insurance or something like that for the asset?
Yes, we basically use the agriculture insurance. So normal insurance you would have for crop, you have the same implemented with trees.
So, and apologies if you have answered already, but maybe I didn't hear it. Is there like a maturity period? Like if I invest on day one, right? So if I want to recover after X time, do I need to wait for the timber, for example, to be sold to have my money, or how do you collateralize that?
Mm-hmm. You have 2 options. So either you can wait until the tree will be harvested. In the case of these trees, we talk for about 8 years. Or you can sell your token on the secondary market. Secondary market works like that you put the bid, we have the price which has been calculated depending on the risk and on the tree grow. So you can say that you can sell the tree after a year for 50 euros, for example. It might be an issue that no one is going to buy it for 50. You can go to 49, for example, or you can try to sell it for 60. It's like going to be open market in this case.
So it's almost like a tree bond here.
Exactly, but it makes sense from the investor point of view, because closer to the date when the trees are being harvested, the number of the risks is lower. So obviously there will be more people interested in the buying in the last period of the tree growing.
And how do you find the selling, like the client part? So the guys who sort of put their forest at your disposal to be able to do the business.
You mean the partners, companies with whom we cooperate to get plantations? Yeah, let's make this one. We basically have already like 3 companies with whom we cooperate from Balkan countries, and they can provide us, let's say, the trees for the next 3 years. More or less. So this part, it's being somehow covered. For them, it's also very convenient, because instead of selling, for example, they don't have the access to singular clients, what we do have. They could sell, for example, the whole plantation, like 50 hectares to someone, but with us, they have much better offer, because we also don't press on the prices. We just take what they are offering, more or less, and put it on the platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, honestly, I've never heard about something like that. It's an amazing idea and not very common at all. Okay, so the last startup Enriga.
Yes, so I don't have slide deck. Sorry about that. So the things will be easier and faster. I'll start, anyways, with one thing to kill time. You had Foodchain's representative who told about this. Well, you mentioned about this pineapple on pizza, yeah. But I have another story. I have a friend of mine who lives in Milan, and once he told me that, well, when someone puts Parmesan cheese on pasta with seafood, a grandma dies in Italy.
Possibly.
Possibly, yeah. Oh, he was quite sure about that. Yeah, Aivars, Enriga, the company headquartered in Latvia, with representatives in a few more countries. It's not a startup, it's an SME, though it might be a startup in a way that it's actually growing with a pace of, let's say, doubling revenues year by year, something like that. The company's main focus is helping or working with B2B tech startups, tech companies, but mainly tech startups on their yearly monetization partnerships. What does it mean? It means that we help those companies to set up joint selling partnerships with, let's say, other larger companies in other markets who have their own customer base. That's not, let's say, really just a consultancy. I would call it a consultancy with a skin in the game, which means we are totally focused on them earning money, so we earn money as well. That's about it. I'll give one example of how we work, and that will be an example of actually a company who was in Block.IS, I think on first call. It was FileSFM. It's like they have like numerous activities, but the main is cloud storage, so backups, syncing tools, so on and so forth. So let's say an easy way, putting it in an easy way, it would be something like competition to Dropbox, something like that. And what we do with them is we help them to find, let's say, IT support companies, insurance companies, also some financial institutions. We got to, let's say, to NatWest in the UK as well, to get these companies on either white label terms or just on joint selling agreement terms to sell their, like these FileSFM products to their customer base on a very short basis. So something like that. Of course, there are other activities around as well. Including consulting VC funds, some acceleration programs, and so on and so forth. Thank you. So yeah, it's not a startup again, but thanks for having me. Do you have maybe any questions?
Do you have any geographic focus?
Yes and no. In the terms that there are representatives in numerous European countries, in US and in some Asian countries, but at the same time, well, the recipe is the same, the formula is the same, and it's all about more understanding the product itself than, let's say, having super knowledge or connections in the market, because those you can develop. So it's more about, let's say, understanding the technology's business application, because it's like yearly technology, and you have to really understand and help to, like, understand how to scale it as well.
Makes sense. Thanks. Any other questions? All right, then. Thanks a lot. So, as we were mentioning before, one of the aims of Block.IS is also to connect all the clusters that are working within innovation and especially in the blockchain field, connect them all together and try to share knowledge between each other. So that's why today we also have here with us 3 clusters that they're going to present themselves. And the first one is the one from Albania. So let's welcome. AgriNet Albania, right?
Hello, everybody.
Perfect.
My name is Tomi Pikuli, and I am Executive Director of AgriNet Albania. You know that agriculture and food now is making more and more important in all the world because for two challenges. The first challenge is the increased population in the world. That you know that a lot of the countries are still poor countries, like in Africa or other countries, that they miss the food. Also, the second challenge is the climate changes that are damaging a lot of the agriculture products. And agriculture now is making a more important. You see here some information about Albania. Albania is a small country with 3.2 million of people, with a surface around 28.8 kilometers square. Unemployment is higher, 17.8 is the statistic of the government, but is higher than this. And the real growth of GDP is plus 3.1%. We hear some situation in the rural area of Albania. You see the population, 50% of population lives in rural area. From agriculture, the government take 23% of the GDP, but invest 4 or 5%. We have a small farm size in the area. Average farming income is 2,500 euro yearly, is too low, as you see. And we have other data from the agriculture field. Here is the Albania where it is settled, with situation that make difficult agriculture are here, small size of the farms, low income from farming, low levels of farmer organization, investment low level, and other issues. Why Albania? AgriNet Albania is a support organization that is supporting the cluster organization, also the development of cluster in agriculture and food sector. He is working in different clusters that are producing agriculture products, remaining to the fruit or vegetable, also the cluster for livestock and milk production and other. AgriNet is an organization that could support to this cluster different activities like education and training education to farmers, technical assistance to agriculture value chain, also technology transferring to improve the production and also the quality of production. Also, we could develop business plan, research and field demonstration, mobilize the people for the lobby and advocacy for their interest, organize study tours, exchange experience between the different clusters. Also, is established networks with other organizations or other clusters. Partners are most of the institutions that are working in Albania, like Ministry of Agriculture, different universities, agriculture, agro-processing, agro-input businesses, and traders. We have two linkages. One is horizontal linkage that is related to the fruit producers or leaf producers, milk producers, and potato and seed producers. And the vertical linkage is related to the producer, processing, traders, and institutions, network for technical assistance and technology transferring. Main result that we have until now, we have support 8 different clusters that are now established and they are working. 5 are apple producers. 1 is for olive and olive oil production. 1 is for the milk producer cluster and 1 potato seed clusters. Advantage of the clusters are written here, we provide to them, and they implement new technology in the agriculture field, provide technical assistance, ensure good quality and inputs with lower price, provide market information, and organize the seller groups for their production. There are some photos from the activities that the cluster are developing. Also some exhibition of the clusters. This is briefly what we are doing in our organization in Albania. Thank you, very much. If you have any questions, please.
So do you see any interest in blockchain in Albania? Just to relate it a bit more on the topic of today. There are some companies asking you about the blockchain technologies within the agricultural field.
For me, I am for the first time related to the blockchain.
Then you can bring it back to your organization.
But I have to promote it in the other organization,
course,
in the other
But maybe it's a good way to bring the knowledge of the technologies over there as well.
Yes, of course.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, the second one is from Torino, Fondazione Torino Wireless. All yours.
Thank you, Francesca. Hello, everyone. So I'm Silvana Sanfeliu. I work in Fondazione Torino Wireless, that is mainly an innovation agency based here in Turin, so 45 minutes train ride from here. And we are actually a coordinator of 2 clusters at Italian level. So we have one regional cluster that is focused on technology, so ICT and any kind of technology that can be applied to different fields. So, of course, from a little bit of some years ago, we started mapping all the new technologies, so AI and blockchain especially, within the Italian ecosystem in order to be prepared and know kind of how the companies are moving, which are the markets of interest in terms of application of the technology, and also the markets that are interested in applying that technology. Because, of course, being an innovation agency and technology cluster, we work not only to support the companies that are working on technologies, but also the ones that are interested in adopting technology. So we are kind of in the middle to put together this networking. Not only to develop research and development projects, but also to try to support them in going towards the market. We usually support companies that are already established, so we work together with incubators and other kind of, let's say, we kind of more in the accelerator phase. So once the company is constituted and everything, we offer services and develop projects also to support better the companies. The other cluster is the Italian technology cluster for smart communities. So it has while the regional one is open for kind of any kind of application domain and markets, the Italian one is focused on smart cities and smart communities. So any kind of technology that can be applied to smart mobility, safety and security, both digital and, let's say, physical safety and security, and also all the part related to e-government and data economy. We've been talking today about data and how data is used and data as a value. So how data can be better used, analyzed and supported in order to support decision-making for the policymakers and also for, of course, companies that can take it as a feedback and use it to better themselves. So I'm here today because we are, of course, open to get to know other clusters and other companies working at not only at Italian level, but also at a European level, because as a cluster, we are currently developing a project, well, several European projects, but we have a project specifically on blockchain and artificial intelligence supporting towards internationalization, let's say like that. It's called, we're analyzing the offer that is currently in Europe, so European companies that are offering and working on blockchain and AI, and getting to know which are the application domains they are applying these technologies for, what are they doing with it, which kind of, like from the technology they're using, which kind of blockchain they're using, if it's centralized, decentralized, permissionless, all of it in the technological part, but also then on the market side. So if they're applying it to forest or to food or different kind of topics, and if they're interested in going international. So you're currently working at a national level, at a local level. Are you thinking on going to Europe? Are you thinking to go outside Europe? So the idea is to see how us as clusters can better support the companies, especially SMEs and startups, of course, in their internationalization path. Starting, of course, in doing this kind of events like networking and getting to know each other and putting in contact, also allowing contacts between potential clients and the companies and also potential other companies to further develop the solutions. So I think that's all.
Perfect, thank you.
I don't have if you have any questions, well, I'm here and
Thanks,
available.
Silvana, thanks a lot. So maybe then I'm sure there are companies also that are listening to us that are maybe interested in getting in touch with you, and we can share the details if you want to get close to them. All right, thanks a lot. And then the last cluster from Montenegro, Cortex.
Hello from my side. My name is Tanja Dukic, and I'm representative of ICT Cortex. It's a Montenegro cluster for information technology, innovation, education, design, technology, development. Yes. And I hope that now you hear me well. We are a small organization established in March of this year, but we are very glad to be here, and thank you, organizer, for invitation. We are very open for collaboration and especially for common application project, as colleagues said before. We are a cluster established by innovative IT communities with the aim of being a leader in digital transformation of the economy and public administration, as well as setting in advance the framework and ecosystem necessary to ensure digital innovation and in IT industry education in Montenegro. We are founded by companies that had some problems, and they decide to come and do on that problems. At the moment, we have 20 companies that employ more than 500 ICT professionals, and altogether they made more than 10% of Montenegro in total export last year. When we talk about our members, they are specialized in this area: web and graphic design, marketing and advertising, web development, mobile development, and all of that you can see on this slide. When we talk about blockchain, we are in the early stage. Our partners from academic sector are in that field more specialized, and they are working on that, but our members are not still in that area. But I hope that one of our founder members, Fleka, which is here, will try something about that. Our members have a lot of clients all around the world, and some of them you can see here. We as a cluster can be bridged between our members and you, and we can say that one of main goal is to create a better business environment for our members, to eliminate barriers and create opportunities for them to grow and develop, and also to make expansion on foreign markets. I hope this event will also help our members to make some step forward. And also, we will, I hope that we will help our institution and companies to make digitalization transformation and improve our economic situation. This is our contact, so please be free to contact us, and also we can also talk later about some direction of our cooperation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanja. Okay, so before wrapping up the day, we have one last panel. So let's arrange a little bit. Sì che.
Renata is reminding us that whomever has not registered at the entrance, please do so because someone up there wants to do it. What, Daniel? Oh, there is no reimbursement. That's
You don't get the money if you don't sign, basically.
That's an excellent reason. So please register yourself at the entrance. Thank you.
So, Marco, Andrea, and then I miss Demetrio. Go get Demetrio. You want this one? I see. Why?
Because this is the black one.
Ah, you want to be the black sheep of the panel?
I am. I can't help it. Oh, I have to be here. Okay. I can bring the chair. Fantastic. Wow. Good. Okay.
Okay, guys. So before we start, we wait for Demetrio. Let's start, and then we will see if he will join the conversation. So I was mentioning to you, I want to make this very informal, and we heard a lot today about the technology, the possible application, all different use cases, and so on. And even in the first panel, we got quite a lot of enthusiasm around.
I like the way you put
I'm
things.
I'm very politically correct. Yeah, I know. Ciao, Dem.
I'm sorry, I was in a meeting.
No. I was just making a very
It wasn't another meeting.
It wasn't another
brief
meeting here.
intro. But my first question to all of you, it's really about the democratization of the technology. Because, okay, we can talk about that, about the opportunities, and even Roberto told us about the possibilities and the missed opportunities. But this is really techie stuff, guys. So I'm wondering, do we need to get to the mass audience? And if it's so, how can we do that? Do you think it's really necessary to get to a democratization of the technology in this sense?
Who's going to start?
It's a really tough question to start with.
Okay.
Okay, that's informal, but wow.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Demetrio is there.
All right. Let me tell you, we need it. Definitely we need it. The way we are going to achieve it can be complicated, but definitely we need it. We have seen over the past 5 years, the curve that represented the accessibility of some services to large amount of customers is moving on a path that is very similar to exponential curve. So in a while, a very large number of people will be in contact with this technology. We have to be sure that this technology wouldn't have the problems of accessibility and governance that is now suffering in the other area of the technology. I mean, we all live with this piece of technology in our pocket, and we are absolutely slave of the way this technology is driving our life, the nudging, the fact that they gently push you doing stuff that you don't want to do, but you are suggested to do through notification and every kind of stuff of this way. This is because there is a little number of companies that are that are driving this, and all these companies are coming from very few nations, so very few cultures. We need a wide open technology that will help us in accessing this new possibility of interacting on not on a media level, but on a transactional of value level in a very different way. And the only possibility that we have is democratizing it.
Thanks, Demetrio. Any other opinions on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think,
Mike.
This is
okay.
I think that we should not worry too much about that, because what I see is that the technology by itself is designed in a democratic way. It's just hard in the beginning getting into it, but I think this is not going to be an issue anyway, because for example, my mother, she was not absolutely the opposite of the technical person, so she couldn't even use an old small phone, there was no cell phone. But the day that when I had my 2 daughters, then she felt the urge to use the phone to make pictures and send pictures to her friends. And then after a couple of weeks, she called me and says, you have to bring me back to the phone shop because I need a better phone. I want with a better camera. I want more gigabytes. And I want a network that's capable of sending. I was shocked because the day, what are you talking about? You don't know what an app is. You don't know how to. She learned by herself just because she wanted to make pictures of their granddaughters. So when people have the drive, something that pushes it, they are smart. They are smart enough to get how to do it. So now we live in a period where soccer players, they have on the chest, the sponsor of the soccer players is Crypto.com. So I believe that in a year or so, probably we will have the market of the token market of those companies in the sport newspaper. So this is going to be a subject that everybody is going to talk about. So this is what is going to drive it. It's just going to happen naturally because, I mean, that's the way the slope is going. So just let things happen, and they just like the internet. Nobody had to push internet. People started
that's true. But you know, internet, for example.
But now we suffer about the fact that a very few companies are driving all the behaviors. Yeah. I don't want that.
Okay. Just let things happen, because the thing is it's like, no, what you want to do? You want to stop companies to become companies, or you want to cut big companies and make them smaller?
No,
you can't intervene
it's different.
In that way.
Yeah, I get what you say about your mother. I want to buy a new phone. I want a new company. I want new a larger amount of megabytes, gigabytes, and blah blah blah. Doing by herself, he's doing exactly what a number of companies is waiting her to do.
Exactly.
Using WhatsApp to send pictures, and every picture that is in WhatsApp is owned by WhatsApp. Publishing that on Facebook, and every picture you put on Facebook is owned by Facebook. Doing research on Google so it can be profiled perfectly. And so it's starting with nudging. He will receive notification, he will receive the right product for her. I mean, this is driving her in a world in which few number of cultural approach, we're going to drive her life in a different way. I was looking at Roberto's hypothesis of creating an infrastructure in which there is distribution, there is clear distribution. But to get there, I mean, until yesterday night, I wasn't aware of that. Now I'm a fan. Now, it's important that this kind of dissemination of culture will get to the young people.
Yeah,
they should be aware of the fact not to be again slaves of a few, but to be open to a very large number.
But what do you think is the missing link then? Because, for example, what I see is that when we talk about blockchain, for example, we refer it a lot to the crypto world, okay? And I see a lot of my friends that are, for example, completely ignorant in terms of investment and so on, but they're getting enthusiasts. but they have no knowledge, no education around that, and they're just playing around. And I think this could be also very, I mean, the result is actually the opposite, because a lot of people are getting in there, but without any knowledge, they are pushing away the good side of the technology, because it's more like, okay, then you are lead to a point that it's easy to think it's a scam, because everybody are not enough
with knowledge.
Yeah, knowledgeable or aware of what they are doing, and this is quite risky. So I was also thinking, maybe Andrea, you can give us a little bit of perspective in that. I mean, on a regulatory side as well, maybe this is the real fear. But at some point I'm like, okay, then they should do something around that. Or
no, sure. From a regulatory point of view, I was scared when I was looking at crypto war and a lot of scam coming from everywhere. At the same time, I think what we have to fear from a regulatory point of view, if it's the paternalistic view, like people has to be helped to understand what to do properly. I think that's something of the late capitalism and the late liberalism way of seeing at the things. So from a point of view of culture and education, that's the first answer, because the world is really getting more complex, and technology is getting more complex and more complex. I think there will be a level where nobody can go there, but if we are ready to share, if we are ready to create more standard, if we are ready to open a little bit more the data, we didn't talk about data, but I think it's something we need to talk a lot more, because the problem about Facebook and WhatsApp is that they have too many data. They didn't want to share this data with us. And so we cannot create anybody like Facebook or like WhatsApp. There is a network effect. And there are a lot of network effects inside the tech economy. So there are two options, two solutions. The first one is a regulatory option. I think we have to go a little bit tougher on this huge amount of power, like Google and Facebook. And the other is a technology way of seeing the things. Share your data. Make possible to have a new startup. Because I think connected to the democratization, what is important right now is that there are a lot of projects, open source projects, you can rely on to start your own technology startup. Inside our startup, my CTO is telling me, nobody write code anymore, because you can find a lot of good code everywhere with GitHub. So this means that we can create a lot of startup, and this could have an effect also on awareness in people. But if we don't free the data, we will have 5 big tech that will surveil also us. And I think that's a bit scary from my point of view.
Marco, you do also a lot of knowledge sharing around the topic of blockchain through your channel.
Yeah.
How do you see the society in this sense? I mean, do you see them ready to accept the new technology? Do you see them completely unaware of what is happening?
I think so, but it's a mix in between the amount of knowledge that you get to, or the amount of good quality information that you have access to, and your willingness of being open-minded and accept new things. So when I talk to companies, for example, the tough part is getting them to accept that there is another possible way to do things, and that the old way is not just the only right way. It's just the way you were used to. Doesn't mean that it was the right one, doesn't mean it was the best one, and doesn't mean that if something new comes along, you tend to be suspicious. I mean, it's very common. We are basically primates. So primates tend to have this idea, something new is scary, I want to stay away from it. And this happens a lot in companies, especially because they have a lot of stake. This happens a lot less in people and in startups because they have less at stake, they are more curious, they're more open to innovation, and they are more open to change. And what happens is that those who are open to change and get in touch with the blockchain, most of the time they fall in love with this technology. I almost never saw anybody who really understood the subject
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you really think that they need to know the technology? Because, for example, technology for me, it's like, I was making this example before, like talking about the cloud.
Yeah.
So nobody knows, I mean, general audience, the cloud technology, but everybody is using WhatsApp.
Exactly.
So do the people need to know about what blockchain is?
There is a level of need, there is a level of how much would be good. So the more you know, the better, of course, but there is a minimum level of it's enough for you to use it, and then there is enough for you to use it responsibly, as Demetrio told us. So it's not a matter like being able to use WhatsApp or Facebook like my mother does, but getting a step over. So the more knowledge you have, the more competence you have, the better answer you can give yourself about how to use the technology and what the technology is. For example, nobody until last week knew what a border gateway protocol was. Yes. And after that, everybody's talking about border gateway protocol and DNS implication, right? We happen to learn things also from mistakes of others. So the more you share your knowledge, the better it is. And as for the sharing of data, probably blockchain is the best solution because blockchain is public. So you can't hide your transactions in a blockchain. You can't hide your data in a blockchain. You use it to share it. So the more you rely on such technology, you make the world a better place, I think.
Demetrio, you think that we need to shift the conversation and change a little bit the connection between blockchain and crypto then, following this line of thought? Because it's more like, you know...
I mean, you can use crypto to leverage the conversation. I mean, you can use crypto as a carrot, no? to attract... to attract people and then talk about the real
But it's not
challenge
the opposite, actually.
It should be, but you understand it after a while. At the beginning, you see these very nice pictures in which all the graphs are going up, everybody...
I'm asking that because a lot of startups are actually have some difficulties in getting funds because of the word blockchain many times. Or, for example, there are some banks, since you are working in quite a big one, that are actually not publicly saying they are working in the field because they are scared of the association with crypto. And one is the one of the biggest Italian ones.
I don't know if it's only association with crypto, but at the very beginning, when the blockchain world emerged from the very nerd that were creating it, the first word that has been used was not decentralization, that was the basic word that should be used, but disintermediation. And when you use the word disintermediation in a bank, you should be aware that you can be easily killed by somebody. So the point is that if you want to associate yourself within a bank organization to the word disintermediation, you should be a very strong one and with good guns in your hands. So that's why I think most of the banks, not now, but at the beginning, they were scared by the blockchain itself because it was presented like an instrument of disruption because of a large disintermediation. After a few years, we understood that this is not true. I mean, it depends. No? There are certain situations in which the disintermediation is true, is real, because you can access a public network to do by yourself everything. But today we learned that there are specific areas of this industry that are complicated, in which it's better that you use, typically for unaware kind of people, it's better that you use a service that is making easy you to access it. So you have an intermediary that is giving you the access to a number of services, a number of potential increase of your money, but with the usual way. I mean, with somebody that has skill and make you easy to access it. The point is to be aware of it. The real point is to make people aware of it. So the term of diffusion of this, the work that is doing this guy every day, to distribute information to the largest population as possible about what is really a scam and what is really a blockchain, this is so important, no? Because young population, as we probably when I was young was the same for me, they don't care, they want to use it, they don't care what is inside. But in this case, because of what we suffer about the previous level of technology that we use, that is the web, no? The web, the mobile, now we know what can get out from that. The few of them are getting the power and are driving you. So in order to avoid it, let's make it clear.
Yeah, I think it's also, it would be very helpful, for example, to see other use cases, you know. So today, for example, we have seen a lot of different companies that are using the blockchain outside what we normally hear around, you know. And maybe, Marco, you can give us some good examples of applications of the blockchain technology, because I think it's interesting for people to understand also there are fields that are very close to our normal life where the blockchain can actually make an impact.
Okay, I have to do this outing, right?
Yes,
okay, I have
you
to tell
should.
people. Okay. Okay, so I put dogs on a blockchain. It may sound crazy, but since my wife is one of the prime figure in Italy for what concerns the dog industry and the dog education, we realized that there are so many scams around the world of dogs or pets in general that they are fueling even crime organization. And the reason is basically we realized that there is no way to have reliable information about our pets. We consider our dog or our cat one of our family, right? Our family member. But if you ask somebody who has a dog or a cat, how many brothers and sisters does your pet have? They don't know. And even the breeder itself, most of the time, he doesn't know. He doesn't know for sure. He can't make up things. Regardless if it's a pure breed pet or one you get from the shelter, we have no data at all about our pets. They are basically some mysterious creatures. They are on our side. They're part of the family. We took them on, but they are strangers to us. So my idea, mostly the idea of my wife, was why not use the blockchain to make an animal registry, international animal registry for any type of animal, any species, any breed, so that we can know exactly what happened in the past to this pet, to his parents, to his grandparents, which type of illness they had, if they had any sort of other issue, so that we can track if the breeder is an honest breeder or if there's something fishy going on, and so on. And this applies to, solves the problems for all the pet industry. For example, many manufacturers of pet food, they don't know where and how to advertise because they don't know where the clients are, because we miss data. So we try to bring some transparent and open data to this world.
Yeah, I think this is really much, much closer to normal people, so people can get the benefit of the technology much easier when we associate to concrete use cases, And I think maybe it's what is missing a little bit.
I mean, if I can add something about sovereign identity, I think it's one of the best cases for. We already heard by Chiara this morning about sovereign identity, and possibility to have decentralized identity. I think, even if I always said that I am blockchain agnostic, that doesn't mean that I won't use a blockchain. I probably will use many different blockchain. EBSI, the European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, is still a project. They are starting right now with a tender to work on the real infrastructure. We are relying on Sovereign, that is using Hyperledger in the Hyperledger areas. So we can work with different blockchain because we are working at an abstract level of identity and attributes. I think that will really change the way we can be identified, not only from a governmental body, but also on a website. And what is, to me, really interesting is the fact that you can certify your identity while hiding at the same time who you are. Because you can use zero-knowledge proof, for example, and if you want to use, I don't know, or to buy something that you don't want to show to your bank, for example, in the future you can probably use this way to identify yourself. I'm dreaming about, for example, weed, and we had in Italy a possible referendum about the liberalization of weed. And I think somebody, of course, an adult, could buy its weed without telling everybody that is buying weed. So from my point of view, SSI is really a really good opportunity for blockchain. At the same time, I experienced one thing that I had absolutely to confess to you. The fact that I couldn't... No. When I was young,
okay.
Yeah, of course. But
let's not go there.
It's a lot of time. No, it's the fact that I changed my interest on sensory identity because I was really frustrated about how faster was going the blockchain world. So sometimes I need to ask you, for example, how do you see the fact that China, you remember we have this conversation on LinkedIn, because I couldn't really follow all the technology, technical development. It was so
overwhelming
to me. I wasn't finding the time, and it is something I think we need to talk a little bit more, like who is able to follow everything?
But do we need to follow everything?
Exactly.
No. I perfectly understand what you mean. Me, myself, I have to do it as a job, so I have to keep up with everything that comes, and I don't make it. I fall behind every single time because the new startups, the new ideas, the new blockchain, I learned something new even yesterday, and you don't have the time to follow everything and follow everything with the level of depth that it deserves to be understood. Yeah. But this doesn't mean that you cannot make it, because the idea is you have a few pillars that are standing there and not going anywhere, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, like all the little kids that those two had around the world, and so on. And then you have the dust. You have all the other stuff where you can look from time to time and say, the thing is interesting, this isn't growing, this is becoming huge, okay, this might become another pillar. But most of the things that happen from day to night, then you gave them a week and they fall down at the same speed. So the idea is me myself, for my job, I have to focus on things that pay in the long term. So the idea is I cannot study every single protocol, every single programming language. So I have to choose the one that are going to stay. I know there's something popping up every single week, but I know there's, at the same time, there's a lot going down every single week. A lot of people was talking about the new blockchain, the fastest blockchain, until the fast blockchain crashes on the world and dies, right? Yeah. So, okay, it's good to try. Everybody has to have the opportunity to try, just because, like Demetrio said before, we don't want everything closed in a few hands. So everybody needs to try new project every day. This is perfect. Let's put them at work and see who gets to be battle-proof and see who stands the challenge. Those who survive, it's Darwin. So those who survive, we follow.
And we need many of them.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
Many of them. But basically, coming back to your question, basically, we have a public ledger, a simple public ledger. So how many public ledger we have in our public administration? How many public ledger we have in our businesses? How many situations in which we could really profit of the fact that the ledger is public instead of being in each company duplicated with errors, and so reconciliation processes in place. And so the cost for the industry to have not public ledgers is heavy.
Huge.
So slowly, as long as the culture of the blockchain will get inside of the company, the use cases will get in production. Slowly, because it has been slow, the path during the creation of the web economy. Slowly, we will get there. Faster than the web economy, for sure, but we will get there, in which people will understand that there is a profitable solution if you use a public registry, a public ledger, and so it will look for a specific technology that is helpful for that specific ledger. Maybe it will be Ethereum for a certain kind of small ledger. It will be maybe quadrants for a larger ledger. It will be something else for the rest of the ledgers.
Yeah. And as long as we can choose?
As long as we can choose. As long as it won't be a Google of the ledgers that will lock in everybody in doing only their services and paying for that, basically.
So I suppose then we just need to wait and see and be as open as possible in terms of what we can work with. I mean, not putting any boundaries in the new.
Yeah, because if you put boundaries, you're preventing yourself from growing and from changing. If you don't change, you can't get better. If you don't get better, you die. So that's what companies, especially in Italy, need to understand. You need to be open to change. Don't get scared if people start working from home, as long as they're working and bringing results, just to make an example. If you change your technology, companies were afraid of internet 20 years ago.
Marco, there you have to fight what I call the nostalgic management.
No, but when people are not bold, companies are not bold. When they are established, they don't want to risk anymore. So that's the problem.
That's the problem.
They don't want to change it.
That's why they fall.
There is a cost in the change, it's a risk.
And yeah, but how much is the risk of not changing?
You tell me. You tell me. I'm working for innovation in a very successful company. You tell me.
I know. We're fighting the same battle.
All right, guys. I think we can wrap it up. And thanks a lot for joining. And then let's meet in 10 years and see how the things are developed.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you, Francesca.
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. And it was a pleasure to have you here.
One thing, if
the
the
books,
attached,
exactly.
I cannot leave them here. So if somebody has a friend you want to give a book to, just take two.
Just bring the books because, yeah. It's thanks, Roberto. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Let's make a picture.
A picture.
A picture.